Hey, welcome back to Kimmel and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Dylan Kimmel.
Hey!
And we're back with some more Turtles action today as we talk about the next movie in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise, which is, of course, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles II, The Secret of the Ooze.
Yes.
And so it's this movie has a little bit of a different feel to it compared to the first one, but still pretty fun to watch. But actually, before we get into that, we wanted to mention something that we forgot to mention in the last episode, talking about the first movie. There was an appearance by a young Sam Rockwell, which he's a tremendous actor, and he has a large body of work out there, and so he played. He's credited in the film as Head Thug, but he has a couple of scenes in the first movie. It was one of the first roles that he ever did, and just thought that was cool. Thought that was worth mentioning because he has had a really big career, and it's always cool to see an actor when they're just starting out, and how many times the actors that have those smaller roles like that in films sometimes go on to be much bigger stars than the main stars of the film.
And he sure has.
Yeah.
He sure has.
Some great movies that I could name off. The first one, I guess, that comes to mind for me, because it was the first movie that I ever saw Sam Rockwell in, was The Green Mile.
Green Mile. Mm-hmm.
And he was playing Billy the Kid in that one, and a very memorable role for sure. But yeah, so definitely look for him in that first Ninja Turtles movie. Again, he's in a couple of scenes there in the when they go to the Shredder's hideout / training facility.
He plays one of the Foot Clan leaders or whatever.
He's like kind of leading the new recruits around and showing them around the place and things like that.
Yeah, he offers a couple of kids some cigarettes.
Yeah. It's like, you got any cigarettes? You want regular or menthol? It's like, whatever you want to do it. Just like that. But it's a fun little part. And another thing, actually, that we wanted to mention just really quick before we get into the subject matter for this episode, it's kind of relevant that we would have chosen to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles now.
We didn't plan it.
Yeah, we totally didn't. It was completely unintentional when we chose this topic, but there is a new Ninja Turtles movie coming out. Actually, it's slated to be released on August 4th. It's going to be an animated feature film.
In a similar vein to Spider-Man and Into the Spider-Verse, although it's got like a video game quality, I think you said.
Yeah, a little bit of sort of the animation, sort of like a computer game CG, kind of quality to it. But there's going to be a huge cast. Dylan, to name off some of the people that are going to be in this thing.
So it's going to be from Seth Rogen here. It's called Mutant Mayhem, and it's got Nicholas Cantu as Leo, Shaman Brown Jr. as Mikey, Micah Abbey as Donnie, Brady Noon as Raph, Jackie Chan as Splinter.
There's some casting for you right there. That's perfect.
John Cena as Rocksteady, Seth Rogen as Bebop, and I'm going to butcher this name here, Ayo Edebiri as April, young April, teenage April there. Ice Cube as Superfly, Paul Rudd as Mondo Gecko, and Giancarlo Esposito as Baxter Stockman.
Nice. Yeah. I like that they're going to be bringing back, especially with the villains, they're going to be bringing back a lot of the classic characters from the comics and the animated series that we were used to seeing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Because as a kid, I loved the cartoon series. That's really how I was introduced to the Turtles, and it'll be great to see what they do with this one. It's going to be mostly a younger cast, especially for the Turtles, compared to what we've seen in the past. So the the more seasoned veterans are going to be playing the villains in this, but should be pretty cool. We'll see how that how all that plays out.
I think Seth Rogen said in one of his interviews about the movie that he was going to bring the teen aspect to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles into there.
Because they're, I guess, kind of just getting started. So probably they're probably teenagers, but like very early teens, compared to
probably
late
13
teens,
years old.
Something like that.
I'd say the more recent ones we've had them being like 17 or something.
Yeah. But anyway, to get into this episode with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, so it was released on March 22nd, 1991. So almost a full year after the first movie was released. Not quite a full year, just a few days shy of a full year. So we didn't have to wait long for a sequel for this.
I don't know if that was a good thing or not, though. They might have had a better script if they waited just a year.
Yeah, might have been a little bit rushed on this one. Obviously they wanted to capitalize on the success of the first movie because that was a mega hit. It was considered low budget. But they
made their money
back like probably 10 times what they produced it for. Mm-hmm. So you can't really blame them for wanting to rush in there and start writing a sequel. Yeah. We do have one of the writers from the first movie returning for this. The script was written by Todd W. Langan. And this one was directed by Michael Pressman. So we have a new director on board this time around. And anytime you switch directors too,
there's going to be a different style.
There's going to be a different style, different cinematic style, and kind of different feel to it. And we've got some casting changes with this one too. It stars Paige Turco as April O'Neil. So she is taking Judith Hoag's place from the original.
I read why Judith Hoag didn't return. Did you? Do you remember why?
Yeah, it was mainly because of the violence of the first movie. She didn't really, I guess, after the movie was released, she didn't really agree with the way that the movie was, because it was supposed to be aimed at kids really, but it definitely had a little bit of a darker tone, as we mentioned before, and there was a lot of action, a lot of
which is one of the reasons why Casey Jones even didn't return, and that the character doesn't return.
Yeah, and so she just didn't want to. They wanted her back, but she didn't want to be associated with O'Neil. David Warner as Professor Jordan Perry, who's a new character in this. Ernie Reyes Jr. as Keno, and returning as the voice for Leonardo, we have Brian Tochi.
He's the only one of the original Turtles that returned too.
Couple of them actually.
Did Mikey return?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I remembered that there. I was like, wait a minute.
There's a little bit more of a like I said, a rotation, a little mix up here because there was a different actor for the in-suit performer for Leonardo. This time he was played by Mark Queso. Adam Carl is voicing Donatello in this one, although Leif Tilden returns as his in-suit performer. Robbie Rist is back as the voice of Michelangelo, as well as his in-suit performer, Michelin Sisti. And then we have a new voice actor for Raphael, Laurie Fazo.
I mean,
doesn't quite have the...
he doesn't have the
he's not terrible. He still has a little bit of that New York flair to Raphael, but just not. He didn't have the same impact that Josh Pais did in the original, and then Ken Scott is his in-suit performer in this movie. And as we mentioned previously, it basically took 3 people to play each turtle. You had the voice actor, the main in-suit performer, which basically did any action that didn't require expert martial arts fighting. For that, there were stunt performers who were actually, seasoned, martial arts guys, that did all of that stuff. And then Kevin Clash returns as the voice of Splinter. we have a new Shredder this time around, Francois Chow, and Toshishiro Obata returns as Tatsu. So we've got a little mixture here. We've got some people back for this, and some some newbies. Definitely, this movie has a different sort of vibe than the first one. It's a lot more lighthearted. I believe this one was really aimed at kids, even more so than the first one, because the original animated series was still going strong at this point. It didn't actually go off the air until 1996, so it was still very popular, and I think they were capitalizing on that as well. So it was a lot goofier than the first one.
It's interesting that the cartoon, like this one, was capitalizing on the cartoon. The cartoon that I grew up on, were you familiar with the cartoon I grew up on? It came out in the 2000s. It's funny because that one is kind of taking a playbook out of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, because it's also a lot more serious, gritty.
I think I saw a little bit of that. I was kind of, by that point I was I was transitioning out of the animated shows and things, and just wasn't watching that stuff as much as I used to, but I did catch some of it here and there. But yeah, it's definitely more kid friendly. Something that I don't know if you really picked up on this or not, but in this movie, the Turtles never actually use their weapons.
They don't. They do not. Instead, they have their weapons on them, but they do not use them. It's a similar thing to the reason why Casey Jones is not in the movie. Too violent.
All the violence, and there was actually, I think the reason that they weren't allowed to use their weapons was because of overseas regulations. Like for the overseas releases, certain countries, if they had used their weapons, it would have required a stricter rating. So like a PG movie, overseas in certain areas, if they had that kind of violence in the movie, it probably would have had to be bumped up from like a PG to like a PG-13 rating or something like that. So they had stricter rules when it came to because otherwise they would have had to chop it up like crazy to show it in other countries. And so they thought, well, we'll just work around it, and we'll just they use other things for weapons. Like for example, in like the first big fight scene in the movie, Michelangelo grabs a pair of is it like sausage links and uses those as his nunchaku. He's like waving around as like combat cold cuts, and it's just like goofy stuff like that. But pretty much their weapons, they have them on their person, but they're like they're sheathed pretty much the whole time. They keep them holstered or sheathed. Or if they do take them out, they don't actually use them against anybody. So kind of got gypped a little bit on that. But there's still a lot of really great fight scenes.
Yeah, like for instance, so they run to a scientist who just so happens to know the secrets of the Ooze.
Yes.
And Shredder comes back from
the dead, pretty much, because in the first film he falls
He's a
off
tough guy to kill, apparently,
into a garbage truck, and supposedly gets crushed to death. But we find out that was not the case. He did live through that.
How though? That does.
But it's one of those Hollywood things, because like you never actually see his body getting crushed. You only see his helmet.
Key thing. If there's no body, not dead.
If there's anything we learn from horror movies, it's that if you don't actually see the body dying, then they can always come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we
learned, and then Shredder ends up using kidnapping this guy who they birth they birth.
Well, yeah, they create these basically super mutants.
No,
yeah,
not
pretty
Bebop.
much. No.
Not,
we were hoping for that.
Yeah,
that was the thing. Is like I think everybody, all Turtles fans, were wondering, if we were going to get any of those villains from the comics or animated series. And
I do know why they didn't end up using them either. It was actually the creators. They said they didn't want them to use them.
So we got something that was kind of a poor excuse for
poor
characters like that.
There.
Yeah. So you had basically Shredder gets a hold of the same radioactive ooze that transformed the Ninja Turtles and decides he's going to create some mutants of his own. And they're really kind of super mutants, like they're even, they're stronger and more powerful than the Turtles. The problem is the guys that he hired from the Foot Clan to, they bring in a wolf and a snapping turtle, but the animals that they grabbed were babies. And so when they get transformed, they're like incredibly strong, but their intellects are basically like, a toddler, like they're not very smart. And so ultimately, in the end, they don't prove to be as formidable of an opponent for the Turtles as we think they're going to be. But yeah, it was clear that was supposed to be kind of a substitute for like the Bebop and Rocksteady characters that were so prominent in the earlier adventures.
I guess it does make a little bit of sense though, because in the movie versions, the characters of the Turtles and Splinter and everyone, they were never originally human.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and which is not true in the comics. I mean, the Turtles were still turtles, but everyone else was human, I think.
But the little plot line with the Ooze is kind of interesting. We learned that the Ooze came from this research facility called Techno Global Research Industries, or TGRI, which I always thought sounded a little bit too close to TCBY, which was a yogurt chain from back in the day. If any of you remember that, they used to have stands all over the malls and places like that. But I always thought, it's like that sounds a little bit like like a yogurt place. But anyway,
well, TGRI was originally in the comics. What was it? Well, it wasn't global. It was something space or something like that.
But it's funny because Splinter, we find out that Splinter saved the broken canister that contained the ooze that transformed him and the Turtles, and that he's had it all these years. But oddly enough, in the first movie, you don't see any initials on that. It's just a plain canister. But in this movie, they kind of rewrote that a little bit, and you see the TGRI initials on the canister because it has to make sense for the plot, obviously. Yeah. But so maybe that's something that they meant to do in the first movie, and they just didn't touch on it at all. But yeah, so now we learn the origins of the Ooze, and of course the Turtles have to try to stop Shredder from his nefarious plans and from creating, try to stop him from creating an army of mutants, because I think that was originally his goal.
It's probably not a well thought out plan, honestly.
Yeah, and that kind of thing always seems to backfire on villains whenever they try to, they try to recreate. It's like, oh well, if this is working, for them, then I can just do the same thing. But it almost always ends up like going the opposite direction, and the because you have to have the kind of the right combination, or but it's like in this case, the mutants end up not being fully fully functional or whatever. It's like they're, like I said, they're not fully developed or whatever. So he just ended up getting his butt kicked again in the end. But something definitely that was a standout to me about this movie was the Kino character, Ernie Reyes Jr., who is a master martial arts guy, and he's been performing since he was a kid. His dad, Ernie Reyes Sr., was huge in martial arts, did a lot of stunts, and was in a lot of martial arts movies from back in the day, going back to with Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee and guys like that. So he's very talented, and Ernie actually was Donatello's stunt double in the first movie.
Yeah, that's
so now
right.
so they bring him into this movie and actually give him a role, actually give him a nice meaty role to play.
They liked him well enough they gave him a role. Huh?
Yeah, and he's pretty good. He's pretty likable. His character's pretty likable, and he has a lot of
as a matter of fact, it's
cool fight scenes too.
It's his character that replaces Casey Jones.
Yeah, basically.
So, yeah.
I love that. I love the scene at the beginning of the movie where he's ironically enough, he's playing a pizza delivery guy. We all know how much the Turtles love pizza, and I like when he comes up on the thugs, accidentally, and he pulls out some great moves there where he just kind of plays dumb at first or whatever, like he's going to back away. And then he takes the pizza, like the warming box or whatever, and just kind of throws it up, so that he throws it at one of the thugs so that the thug will put his hands up to catch it, and then he just starts kicking the crap out of him and starts doing these roundhouse kicks and everything, and it's a nice little scene there before they realize that he's outnumbered, and then the Turtles have to come in and save him. But yeah, he was, I think he did a lot of kickboxing and stuff too, and so you get to see some of that stuff in this movie as well. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed his character, and April. I don't know, what are your thoughts on the new April compared to Paige Turco's portrayal compared to Judith Hoag? Do you think she was better or worse, about the same?
She wasn't terrible. She was not terrible, but I do like Judith's portrayal far more.
Yeah. It's hard when you have somebody who kind of establishes the character. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, now you've already got that in your mind as that's who you associate with the character. Whoever plays them first is usually who you're going to think of, and it's very rare that you can replace an actor or actress and have them be better than the original. But
I mean, I don't think any of the Aprils after her are memorable in any way, honestly. Megan Fox?
Yeah, I mean, Megan Fox was, I mean, she had the looks, but I don't know that she really captured the essence of the character. I don't know, but maybe it probably just depends on which generation of Turtles you grew up with.
Because each generation has their own turtle.
Yeah,
different, whatever.
And these movies, they
constantly change them up each generation.
Yeah. Some of them, these movies are closer, I think, to the animated series because actually, just a little piece of trivia here, in the comics, originally the Turtles all basically looked the same. There was really not any discernible differences between them.
There was no color or I don't even think they had the belts with their initials.
They all wore red headbands originally. It was the animated series that changed the color of the headband so that each turtle had a different headband. Raphael was the only one that maintained the original red. Michelangelo had orange, Donatello was purple, and Leonardo was blue. And so pretty much every incarnation of the Turtles from the animated series on maintained the different colors, and even the starting with the movies, the turtles themselves all had slight variations in the way that they looked. Like their faces were, like in these movies, the turtle suits, like the heads and everything, like they all had different head molds, for each turtle to kind of set them apart. And they were slightly different, in heights too. A little bit of difference there.
Even color too.
Yeah. These in the second movie, I noticed that the skin on the turtles was a little bit more spotty. Like the spots were more noticeable than they were in the first movie. So
the head sculpts in the second one though aren't as good as the first one. I don't think. I don't think, anyways.
No, there was definitely some things that with the second movie that I didn't like as well. Nothing against the voice actor who played Donatello, but it was just not as good as Corey Feldman. It was. No. I found Donnie to be a little bit annoying in this one. He was
like, when I heard him talk, I was like, oh,
yes. But it's just one of those things that it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, we were at the time. I know I was just happy to be getting another Turtles movie, and there were, like I said, there were things that I did enjoy about it, and something that we didn't really get into before was the whole pizza angle. Like the Turtles love pizza. Now myself, I absolutely love pizza. As a kid, like before I got into Ninja Turtles, I liked pizza. After the Turtles, I loved pizza, and I became like a pizza freak. And oddly enough, the first movie, they used Domino's pizza in the movie. There was a little product placement there.
Yeah, they didn't use Domino's in this one.
But the really funny part about it was that even though Domino's was featured in the movie, it was actually Pizza Hut that had the tie-in with the movie. Like if you went into Pizza Hut, they sold, Turtles, toys or whatever.
Funny. Yeah. Why is that?
It's like, why would you have two different? I don't know. Maybe it was just a thing of at the time of filming. Domino's thought they were going to have the tie-in deal, and then by the time the movie was released, they decided, oh, we're going to go with Pizza Hut instead, and they just didn't remove the Domino's from the movie. The pizza in this movie, however, is just oh gosh, I forget it was a generic. It wasn't like a chain. It was a generic pizza place that they used, But yeah,
probably angered Domino's and Pizza Hut.
But yeah, I mean that was. So I think I have the Ninja Turtles to thank for my love of pizza. Now
honestly, the pizza on that screen looks a whole lot better than what you get in the box.
Yeah, I'm very particular about my pizza, and so if it's not up to my standards, I'll be the first to let somebody know.
I will say, watching the movies, it does make me want to have pizza.
Yeah, you kind of get that little craving there. But so some other things I think worth noting was the soundtrack. Actually, for both movies. In the first movie,
we didn't really talk about the soundtrack.
But in the first movie, had a good, very memorable soundtrack, and with a couple of popular artists from the time, like MC Hammer and High Tech 3, and they definitely had their finger on the pulse of music that was really trending at that time, and no difference for this movie, because in this movie we have Vanilla Ice and Ya Kid K, just to name a couple of, Ya Kid K was like, it was kind of that, had a little bit of that like techno sort of groove, to the music, but when you think of like early 90s, especially rap, you think of early 90s rap, you think of like MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice and people like that. Like they were on top of their game at the time, and they were, they had mega hits. But this movie takes it a step further, because not only does Vanilla Ice, provide a song for the soundtrack, Ninja Rap, but he is in the movie.
He's in the movie. What the? like all of a sudden, the Turtles get thrown into this whole.
It's like an underground dance club or something.
Yeah, there's Vanilla Ice and everyone.
He's on stage, and then next thing you know, this fight breaks out in the club between the Turtles and then Toka and Razor, which are the super mutants, and they're fighting in the club, and suddenly Vanilla Ice gets this pang of inspiration, and it's just like I just thought of a new song, and he just starts dancing and rapping, and
everyone's in sync. Like, you just came up with this. How'd you? What?
The Turtles are like kind of fighting in sync and rhythm to the music, and it's pretty comical. But this was like the epitome of early '90s pop culture, and it somehow it worked. Somehow it's like nobody really thought about it, and it was pretty entertaining. That whole scene was pretty entertaining. And then we get and then at the end of the movie we get a mutated Shredder.
I did like that.
That was pretty.
I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, we get a Super Shredder.
I mean, I wish they could use their weapons and stuff. The fight would have been even cooler, I think. But yeah, that was pretty. I'd imagine probably for smaller children that was probably a little bit scary, but the Super Shredder, coincidentally enough, was played by future WWE superstar Kevin Nash, who was just a mountain of a man. He has had huge. A career.
Did a lot of other movies too.
Oh yeah, the funniest thing is that the one that comes to mind for me is The Punisher. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that one? Mm-hmm. I highly recommend everyone, if you can, find the director's cut. It's so much better than even the original movie, which honestly I like the Punisher, the original Punisher with Tom Jane in there.
Yeah.
But Kevin Nash played the Russian in that, and oh my goodness, he's huge. Like that scene where Tom Jane actually stabs the Russian, he actually stabbed him. He's like, oh crap.
Like,
this is a big guy. You stab a big guy, you're probably going to be like, crap.
Like I'm in trouble now. Yeah, but that was pretty good. I almost wish that we would have gotten more of that, because it was a
very short-lived,
very brief scene, because the Turtles. Well, actually, the Shredder brings down the dock on himself, because he's like crashing through all of the pylons and everything. But
couldn't they have done something a little bit more creative, like have like the Turtles be the reason why he ends up,
Right. So then maybe
he just randomly just starts.
So then maybe they'd have to like live with that guilt of like, even though he's a villain, like if they were actually responsible for his death, like how would that have looked? But because in the first movie, when really his supposed death was really an accident. Splinter didn't kill him. Splinter was trying to defend himself, but ultimately it was self-defense, because he was hanging off the roof, and Splinter's hanging on to him with Mikey's nunchaku, and then the Shredder tries to pull his knife out from his belt and throws it at Splinter. Splinter, of course, catches it, because he's not going to let him hit him in the face with a knife. And so he can't catch the knife without letting go of Shredder, and then Shredder falls into the garbage truck.
Yeah, I would agree that the ending for the first one was a little bit stronger than the second one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's kind of one of those things where they just had to come up with a nice, neat little, I guess, wrap up, for the movie. And but yeah, it like I said, this one was it was still enjoyable. It wasn't quite up to par with the first movie, but it wasn't terrible either.
It wasn't the third one.
It wasn't the third one. We will get into that next time around, and we'll explain to you why that one was so bad. As a matter of fact, like until about maybe 2 years ago, I didn't even own the third movie. Mm-hmm. I only owned the first two because for a long time those were the only two that I cared about. I saw. I saw the third one when it came out in the theaters, and never saw it again until many, many years later. But I'm a completionist,
mm-hmm.
So
same.
so I had seen it, a couple more times in recent years, and tried to find something that I liked about it, but. It's I don't know.
It's like George Clooney's Batman and Robin. You can't find anything good in it.
It's a little bit of a stinker in most aspects, but we will be talking about that our next episode, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. So be sure to tune in for that. But we are actually just about out of time here for today. But before we go, we definitely want to remind everybody again that we are going to be at Lexington Comic Con coming up March 23rd through 26th. Man, we're so excited about this. Like I can't wait.
We will have merchandise and shirts.
We're gonna have T-shirts there. It's gonna be a Comic Con exclusive, so you can only get an official Kimmel and Cox T-shirt if you come see us at Comic Con.
I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Right? Who wouldn't want our faces? Across your chest. I mean, I just think, but yeah, definitely. We hope you'll come out and say hi. That's going to be a lot of fun. Again, it's March 23rd through the 26th at Central Bank Center here in Lexington, Kentucky. Be sure to go online and get your tickets now at LexingtonComicCon.com. You can find out more details there.
Yeah, you could see a whole bunch of really cool celebrities, and then there's us.
Exactly. Yeah, and just come out, and there's going to be some great celebs at this year's convention. Be sure to go on the website and take a look and see who's going to be there. A lot of people that kind of fit within the. Not only people who have done movies and things, but that kind of tie in with the comic world too. And so yeah, we won't spoil that for you, but definitely go on the website and check it out and see who all is going to be there. And we certainly hope you'll come by and say hi to us too while you're there. And as always, be sure to subscribe, like, and share to our YouTube channel. And when you subscribe, tap that nice little bell icon so that you're receiving all the notifications whenever a new episode or new content is posted. We're also on all the major social media platforms, so be sure to check us out on our socials as well. And we'll have those links for you on the bottom of your screen, as well as at the end of each episode in the closing credits. And we'll have some links down below in the video's description as well. And there's plenty of places where you can catch our podcast besides YouTube. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, just to name a few. We'll have those links available for you down below as well. But whether you prefer to watch your podcasts or listen to them, we've got options there for everybody. Yeah. And as always, want to point everyone towards our Patreon page as well. That is an area where you can provide support in a different kind of way by actually contributing to the podcast and just helping us to bring you a better quality show, like to get fancier equipment and hopefully at some point to be able to get a permanent studio space that we'll be able to have more flexibility with. And
there's exclusive stuff on that as well that you won't be able to see anywhere else.
Yes, that is true. There are clips and things on there that we haven't posted anywhere else. So definitely check out that Patreon page and take a look at some of the perks that we're offering on there. And we definitely believe in giving you back something for your contribution, and it, every little bit helps. You don't have to give a lot. It can all go a long way towards helping us provide the best quality podcast that we can. So check that out, and leave your comments and questions for us. We'd love to hear from you. You can comment on our YouTube channel, on our socials, or you can even drop us an email at our official podcast email, kimmelandcox@gmail.com. So plenty of ways where you can reach out and get in touch with us and join in on the conversation, because that's what makes this fun for us. And we'd like to know if there's anything that let us know what you think of the episodes, and give us some ideas too. I mean, we have an endless supply of subjects that we can talk about, but if there's anything in particular that you'd like to hear us talk about on here, then that would be the place where you can chime in and let us know what you think there. So but that's all the time that we have for today. We certainly hope you'll join us next week, and until then, be good to yourselves, and we'll see you next time. What was that?
You dipstick.